Negotiating your salary. There's a lot at stake here. It's not just about this job and this year. Your pay for the rest of the time at this organization will be based on how you negotiate your salary as you take your first position. But negotiating your salary can be awkward and uncomfortable. Today we're going to discuss how to talk about salary in a job interview and how to negotiate your salary once an offer is made. This is something you'll want to think about and plan ahead of time to ensure the conversation goes the way you want it to. I recently sat down with Cindy, who served as executive director at a New York City nonprofit, and she now works as a recruiter. She's hired hundreds of people and can help you think through your requirements and the right way to talk about them. So Cindy, let's talk about salary. How do you suggest people talk about that in an interview?
It is complicated, and it's one of the things that scares people.
Yeah.
So one is, with everything else that I've said, prepare for it ahead of time.
Okay.
The ways that you can prepare for it. One, there may be, you should make sure you know if there's a salary band or a hourly rate listed, because that makes it really simple.
Right.
Some places will do that, so make sure you're aware of that.
Okay.
Lots of places won't, and they'll say based on experience, etc. Something that's good to know is that there are states now, New York and California, maybe some others, where it is no longer legal for them to ask you what you currently make or what you made in your previous job.
Okay.
It actually is helpful to know. So be prepared with your previous salaries if you're in a state where that's legal, and they may say, what was your last salary? And they base, they'll base what they may give you based on what you made previously.
Okay, let's say you live in a state where it's not legal to do that, yet they've asked you that. Maybe the person interviewing you doesn't know, or maybe they don't care. How do you think that should be handled by the person who's being interviewed?
I mean, I would say you could handle it two ways. You could, here would be my suggestion, would be to say, in my last role, I made about X, and I anticipate or expect or want to make X in this role.
Okay.
And that way you're answering both sides of the question. It's super complicated if that happens.
Yeah.
And with all of the things that are not legal to be asked about in an interview.
Cindy's given you a good general way to talk about your salary if you're asked directly what you currently make, and how to, in the same sentence, mention a ballpark for what you want to make in your new position. Ballpark. I go over what this idiom means at the end of the video. She also mentions a salary band or grade. In some organizations, positions are assigned a salary band, which simply means the pay for that position must fall within a set range. If you know the top of the range is too little for you to accept the job, you should drop out of the process as soon as you know that, since they won't be able to offer you more.
If you are asked then what are your salary expectations, which is often the question that's asked, so the research you should do ahead of time is what are the salaries or comparable salaries at organizations. You can go onto Glassdoor. You can go on, do a search of just what are the salaries at this place, and it'll pull up wherever that salary information might be. And so if you can't find it for the company you're applying for, look for others. If you're applying in the nonprofit space, you can go onto Guidestar. That shows at least top salaries at an organization. That is not always helpful, but it can at least help you have a gauge. So do as much research as you can about what the role is and what standard salaries are in the place of which you are applying, so that you know where that basis is.
Cindy mentions two websites, Glassdoor and Guidestar. Glassdoor is a website where you can enter a company or organization and see all sorts of information about it. You can read reviews from people who work there or have worked there on their experience as an employee, but you can also see the salaries for various positions. You can do a search on the job title for the job for which you're applying and see all salaries at different companies in the same city or region that you'll be working in. This can give you a great idea of what to ask for.
And then figure out, if you're flexible, then say that and say, I'm looking for a salary of $60,000 a year, but I'm flexible. Like, I'm willing to go down to 50,000, but I really like to be closer to 60. If you're not flexible, if you have a bottom line, then say what that is.
Okay.
Like if truly you're like, I cannot make less than 75,000, like I just can't, then communicate that. Because you don't want to waste your time or their time. If you really are flexible, then you can say, look, I'm really flexible. I'm excited about this role. Like the salary isn't the thing that's most important to me. Could you share with me what the range is?
Okay.
And they'll, We are very flexible. I've always been very flexible with range and say the range is X. Is that comfortable for you? And they'll say yes or no. Right? So, I think you need to know going in where your requirements are and are they flexible?
Okay. Not only do you need to research current salaries at the organization and the same position at other local organizations, but you also need to ask yourself what your range is. Know how low you'd be willing to go and what your preferred salary is. You can use phrases like this. I'd like to see myself making between $50,000 and $60,000. I'd like to be at or close to $75,000. I can't take this position for less than $70,000. In an interview, how much should you be justifying what your salary requirements are? So let's say they give you a range and you feel like you really need to be at the top of that range to take the job. When you say that, should you, or is it a turnoff to say, and I think that my skills in XYZ justify that, or just leave all of that alone, just do numbers?
Well, actually, at the point that you're in an interview process, if they say the range is 50 to 60 and you think you need to be at the top of that range, I wouldn't mention that at that point.
Okay.
You wait till you have an offer to do negotiating. Okay. You don't negotiate on salary until then, in my opinion.
Great advice.
Yeah. So at that point, as long as it's within range, then you say, great, that's comfortable for me. And it's possible they may ask you more. Like, it depends on the situation. As a recruiter, I can have a much more frank conversation with somebody, right, to figure out really what the situation is around salary. And people feel more comfortable talking to a recruiter about that. But I would say you don't want to start negotiating until you have something to negotiate about.
Right. Until there's been an offer. Yeah.
Yeah.
So basically, be prepared, do your research to know what to expect, and then also be prepared to say what you want and not shy away from being direct about that if it is indeed what you need to have.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And if you've done your research, and if you really don't know, I do think it's okay to say, I really don't know what the salary range would be for a role like this. Would love to have some understanding of that before I say what I need. Okay. That's also okay. Like, especially if you're moving into a new field, and you can say, I was making around this, before, but it was a very different field, and so I expect that the salary ranges are different here, and I haven't been able to find very good information. Would love if you could help me and figure that out. So I think there are a lot of different answers, but you just want to know you want to prepare ahead of time for what those answers are.
Always be prepared.
Yeah.
So let's say you do get an offer. Now what? You're no longer in the interview process, you're in the negotiation process. First of all, as Steve mentioned in an early video in this course, if you're waiting for another offer from another company, or you already have one and you're deciding between two, go ahead and let the companies know. You could say something like, I also have an offer from another company. Could I have a couple of days to consider my options? You may find that a company is willing to match a higher offer from another company if they really want you. But also, never lie about having an offer from another company. Your job offer will likely come in as a phone call. It's very normal to ask for a couple of days to think about it. The person who's offering you the position will probably want you to let them know the specific day that you'll give them your answer. It's okay to respond with an email rather than a phone call, and it's also definitely okay to negotiate your salary. In fact, the person offering you the job is probably expecting it. I talked to several people who do hiring for their companies, and they said in some cases, they do make a last best offer right from the beginning. That is, when they give you the offer, they say something like, this is the most we could offer you for this position, or this is our last and best offer. In that case, there's no negotiating. You can decide if you'll take it or not. But if they don't say that, it's fair to ask for more. You could say something like, I'd be so happy to take this position, but I would like to be making, name your number. If they can offer you that or something close to it, then great. If what you've asked for is beyond the budget, then they'll let you know. It doesn't mean you can't take the job. When you counter, when you ask for more money, how much is it appropriate to ask for? There's no one perfect answer here, but from the people I've talked to, it sounds like something around 8% or so would be reasonable. If you're offered $60,000, it would be okay to ask for $65,000. You could push that up a little bit more if it's very important for you to make more, but you wouldn't want to counter with something like $80,000 if you were offered $60,000. Do your research. Know what expectations are and know your bottom line. All this will help negotiating a salary go smoothly. Good luck in your new position. And this concludes the course on getting a job in the US. I've had so much fun learning with you along the way. What jobs are you applying for, or what job were you offered? Let me know in the comments below. I wish you all the successes in the world. For my non-native students, we're going to get to your English lesson in just a minute. If you haven't already, be sure to click the subscribe button and the bell for notifications. I make new videos on the English language and American culture every Tuesday and have over 600 videos on my channel to date, focusing on listening comprehension and accent reduction. While you're waiting for next week's video, a great next step would be to check out this Get Started playlist. Now, for my students who are non-native speakers of English, I want to go over how I use the word ballpark. A ballpark is a baseball field, but we use it idiomatically. The way I used it, it means approximation. When talking about salary range, I said, mention a ballpark for what you want to make in your new position. A ballpark estimate or figure is, again, an approximate. And when I use that, it implies that I haven't spent a lot of time thinking about the details before I come up with the number. It's just a ballpark figure. It's just a general approximation. For example, recently we asked our friend who's a contractor how much it would cost to repair our shower, which was leaking. We described the situation and he gave a ballpark estimate over the phone. If he came to our house, explored the issue, and looked up how much the materials would cost, he would be able to give us a more accurate estimate. Let's say you're negotiating selling your car. Someone wants to buy it, and he's saying what he's willing to pay for it, $5,000. He might say, am I in the right ballpark, or are we in the same ballpark? If you're thinking of selling it for $6,000, then an initial offer of $5,000 might feel like it's in the right ballpark. But if you wanted to sell for $9,000, then $5,000 probably feels like it's not even in the ballpark. We also use ballpark in the phrase to hit it out of the ballpark, to congratulate someone on doing something spectacularly well. Maybe a colleague at work made an amazing presentation to a client. You could say, you hit it out of the ballpark. Or maybe David gave me the best birthday present I could ever imagine. I could say, he hit it out of the ballpark. Another ball term you might hear in negotiations is lowball. This is when someone offers you something that you feel is well below the value. For example, if you want to sell that car for $9,000 and someone offers you $5,000, you might say, that's a lowball offer. Or you could also use it as a verb and say, he's lowballing me. Have you ever heard one of these terms before? Describe the situation in the comments so other students can learn from you. That's it, and thanks so much for using Rachel's English. If you want to see my absolute latest video, click here. If you're new to the channel, check out this Where to Start playlist. Click here to subscribe. I make new videos on American English every Tuesday. To be sure we can keep in touch, click here to sign up for my newsletter. You'll get free lessons in your inbox every week.